Alright, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Kerbal Space Program. Today I'm going to be teaching you how to build what I consider to be a simple rocket in design that will get you into orbit pretty easily. And this is sandbox mode. I don't know how difficult these materials are to achieve in career mode, but what I find is this rocket is very easy to control, and getting into orbit with it is not a problem at all. So I'm going to teach you how to get this rocket built and get into orbit, because I found that I struggled a little bit when I was first starting this game. I've had it for about, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 days, this game, and I find this rocket is simple enough for myself to comprehend, and I am rather stupid in nature. So, I hope you can understand most of what I'm doing here, and yeah. We're going to start with a Mark 1-2 command pod, and put that on the top. Underneath of it directly we're going to stack a Rockomax X200-32 fuel tank. And right underneath of that, we're going to put a RE-L10 Poodle liquid fuel engine and stick it right there. Now, of course, this looks a little short for a rocket, but there's a reason for that, and that is that we're going to go to the structural area, select the Rockomax brand decoupler, and cover that up. Now, that means that we got a second stage. As you can see right down at the one here that's highlighting, that is going to break off, and then that's going to fire the engine that's hidden in there. So, this fuel tank, we're going to stick couple more on there. I guess 3 should probably work well. 3. So now we got 4 fuel tanks, and right underneath of that we're going to put one big old engine. We're going to go with the REM3 main sail liquid engine and put it right there. Now if you look down in the bottom left corner, you'll see symmetry mode, and we're going to turn that to full, which is an octagon shape. Basically that means that there's going to be 8 of the whatever I place, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the hydraulic detachment manifold and stick it right there, and I want to line it up so it looks like it's going to be pretty even. Now that looks pretty good, so I'm happy with that. And so we're going to take kickback engines and stick them right on there. Now they look like they're about even with height, and we got 2 more things to do. 3 actually. First we need to take a XL MK16 parachute and stick it right on the top of that. That's for when you re-enter. And finally you're going to want a advanced nose cone type A for your other rockets to keep it more aerodynamic. I don't know that this is necessary if you want to build this thing, but I like it for the aesthetics look. Now if it'll just snap in, that'd be much appreciated. Sometimes it's tough. There. Okay. So you can see that's our rocket, and the last thing we do is take these so we can launch it. Now, you're not quite done. Once you've built it, you still need to organize all your stages, and it's going to be 6 stages in total. Your first stage is you want the 8 boosters here to fire, so you're going to move that down, and then you would want these to fire, so you would be able to take off, and then these would fall off, except I'd like to move that down there, so that these falling off is the 4th stage, so you have this to control it if it starts to tilt a little bit, which I think it won't usually. Finally, once you've dropped these and this has run out of gasoline or liquid fuel, then you're going to engage that, and then this part here and here at the stack decoupler, you see right there, the highlighted part all the way to the top is going to break off, and then that little engine in there is going to fire. But you don't want the parachute to fire at the same time, so you're going to leave the parachute as the highest stage, and you're going to put that engine as the 2nd highest stage. And that's it. That's it. The rocket's done. Now let's go ahead and launch it. Okay, here we are on our launch pad, ready to take off to go to space. So first I'm going to fire 8 boosters, as you can see in the 6th stage over here, those highlighted ones. And as soon as that happens, and I let them build thrust, I'm going to press those and drop them so the rocket takes off. I'm going to let it sail for a little bit, and then I'm going to fire that one to give it some extra thrust. And then once these 8 run out of fuel, I'm going to fire this, and they'll fall off, and then this should carry us into orbit. This engine right here. Finally, after that runs out, we can disengage that, and this rocket will carry us where we need to go. And we'll just be a small little command pod up at the very top there. Okay. Of course, spacebar is to activate these stages, so I'll start it now. Now we can launch. I don't believe that there's any specific time that you need to engage the third stage, which is of course the center rocket that hasn't fired yet. But you can pick whenever you want to do that, so I'll do that now. Okay, they've ran out of fuel, so I'm going to hit spacebar again to disengage them to drop the extra weight. They fall right off with no problems. Clean break. Now our rocket's going to twist a little bit. It appears that the rockets have gotten to a minor disagreement. But that, of course, doesn't affect us at all at this point, so we're not going to worry too much about it. Now, your goal here is to keep this rocket straight, which I'm completely failing at doing. Now, that's, of course, a little bit disappointing, but I don't know why it's doing this. Shouldn't matter, though. We'll just make sure it gets sorted out. I usually don't have a problem with this, but I've kind of screwed up the keys, and I'm still new to this game, so forgive me for that. Okay, now we've aimed up. I've got some control over it. Okay, there we go. Now, we're just going to aim out a little tiny bit. I want to aim up again. There. Okay, of course, the Earth is a circle, or Kerbal is a sphere, rather. So, going straight up won't put you in orbit. Orbit is a constant fall. And the goal of orbit is to fall in a circle, and to do that, you need to change your trajectory so you're going parallel to the Earth. Meaning, you're just creating a bigger circle. So going straight up won't do anything for us. Eventually we're going to fall back until we... Or, if we can successfully ditch the flight pattern and the gravitational force of Earth, Kerbal, I'm going to make that mistake a lot. Well then eventually we're going to ditch that and we're just going to drift forever because we're going to run out of fuel eventually, and that's bad, of course, because you're never going to see your Kerbals again, and poor Bill, Jebediah, and Bob are going to miss their families forever, and then... I mean, you just don't want that. Okay, so now we're in space. But if you... I'm going to check the orbit map here. So, it's pretty good. I mean, it can be better. Obviously, we're going to keep going up until we finally hit peak, and then we're going to fall back down, because we're going to run out of inertia, and we're just going to fall back down to Earth. Kerbal! Okay. You understand what I'm saying, of course. So now, we're going to engage this right here, and break off. And then we have to continue our flight pattern, so let that drift away until we're at a safe point where we're not going to destroy it. And now we have to figure out which way we're falling. It appears that we're going this way. And now we gotta increase our speed in that direction. Just aim that way and let it burn until we have our own orbit. And hopefully by then we'll have enough fuel that if we want to break that orbit, we can still go back in that direction. I'm just going to make sure that we are... Nope, it looks like we're headed in this direction, so I'm going to let it do that. We're slowing down, apparently. Are we going the right way? Yeah, you can see. Right over here. This is widening. That means that our orbit is being successful. And eventually that circle is going to widen until it's all the way around the planet, and that's when you have achieved orbit. So we're just going to let it continue to burn. And as you can see down beside this thing right here, a little plus minus here, liquid fuel, we've got a good amount left. That's for sure enough to get us into orbit. I don't know about falling back to Earth, Kerbal, but I think that should be fine. Okay. We're continuing to gain altitude, which is not necessarily a good thing, but it's not a bad thing either. I just want to make sure that circle widens enough. As you can see, we're almost there. We're so close to getting our own orbit. I just want to make sure that it's still growing. Yeah, it is. got to keep pointing in that direction until finally we have our orbit. Yep, still growing. By quite a bit this time, actually. We're almost in orbit. We almost have our own orbit, I mean. Keep checking your orbit map and keep making adjustments so that you can, you know, hold this position, because eventually your rocket will drift. I mean, it's never going to go in a straight line, especially without aerodynamics to keep it going in a straight line. Eventually it's going to spin around. There you go. I think that means, I think that's signaling our orbit. I'm going to cut the engine and check. There you go. We got it. Now, if we're going to want to go back to Earth, which is eventually Kerbal, which is what you want to do, of course, we're going to speed up time until we're at about here. That's when we can try and combat all of the inertia that we've built up, as you can see right here, the little circle thing, when we've come closer to the atmosphere of Kerbal, so that way it'll be easier for us to fight it. And I've sped up the time, because burning here would just be a waste. Right here, the Kerbal Apoasis. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it, I'm not sure. Okay, now you can see that we're closer to Kerbal than we would be over here. So right here is at 67,000 meters, whereas here is 404,000 meters. Whoop. Okay. Got our frame rate back. But it's nighttime, so it's going to be dark, and we're going to have to try and combat this ourselves. Okay, so we're going to line up with the direction that we're not facing in, and we're going to fire that engine back up. Now, I was confused first, too, because it didn't want to start. Just hit shift. Okay, now we're firing back up. We're just going to burn until we finally slow our orbit enough that we can fall back into Kerbal. Hopefully, we won't be landing in the mountains, and we can deploy our parachute, because the parachute can burn up, and when you enter atmosphere, of course right now I have no limit to how fast I can be going because nothing's resisting me. In space you can go as fast as you want, and there's no wind resistance to stop you from doing so. However, when you enter atmosphere, you begin to burn up, so you have a max velocity. And that max velocity means that if you are trying to, you know, fight it, you're going to be burning up. That's why objects can only travel so fast. And when they're exceeding that, they're going to be overheating, because I believe the molecules are encountering friction, and they're traveling faster than they're supposed to be. I'm not sure exactly how the science works, but I would imagine it's something along those lines. So the parachute would overheat and would eventually malfunction, and of course our Kerbals would die. I'm going to go check the orbit map quickly. So, I don't know how much fuel we're going to have. It's different every time. You never get the exact same orbit. But if we can slow our momentum just enough, we should be fine. It's going to take a lot of burning though. One thing about orbit is that I built up so much momentum to build that circle around the planet that this little tiny engine, the Poodle, I think it was called, is now tasked with fighting everything I've built up. Getting into orbit is really no problem with this aircraft, but sometimes exiting orbit can be difficult, which is of course not ideal. How are we doing? Yeah, it's decreasing, so it means that we are progressing. What we want to do is for this PE thing to move into the circle. That was awful. Oh my god. Any scientists who watched this, anybody, no, you don't even need to be a scientist. You just facepalmed, didn't you? Whoa, that's cool. Okay, still fighting that. Okay, well, it appears as though we are speeding up. That means that we are struggling to combat the forces of our inertia. So I'm going to aim it in the exact opposite direction and just, I mean, what can you do but pray? Our orbit has shortened quite a bit, And this one is down to 42,000 meters. Okay. This is difficult to see what's happening. This camera angle is bad. Oop, don't want to go there. That's much worse. Okay. We're just going to let that coast for a little bit, and then we'll check back on the orbit map later. So I'll cut this part out then. We're down to 20,000 or 215,000 meters, and slow and very quickly losing that, so that's good. We got about 35% fuel left, so I think that should be more than enough to get back into Kerbal atmosphere. And I'm not exactly sure where we re-enter, but we are really lower in that peak, because it predicted us to not dip below 45,000 before, and we're at 38,000, so that's very good. Alright, we've re-entered. Judging by that camera angle, I would guess that, yeah, we've re-entered. Okay, now we're going to burn up for a little bit, and I'm going to check the orbit map to make sure that we're not predicted to make a full circle. We are. Okay. So, that's a very shallow orbit, though. Wow, that is a shallow orbit. Okay. So of course we're gonna touch down because of that. It was shortening so much, and we're projected to land back here. But I want to land in the water, you know, because while it may not be convenient for the Kerbals, they can always be rescued in the water. But should they hit mountain, I cannot confirm that the parachute will save them. And I want to land safely in this episode or tutorial. Okay, as you can see. Our rocket won't be doing much, so we might as well cut it and let ourselves fall. Now let's check out the orbit map. Okay, we're going to hit mountain. But it's shortening. Ooh, it's shortening a little bit, but not quite enough for what I want. There it is. That's exactly where I want to be about when I land. As you can see, we're burning up pretty quickly. But given that we're so horizontal with our approach, I think we should be fine for slowing down. You can see our speed is already slowing down, and I'm going to stagger it so that we can gain as much air resistance as possible. We're going to attempt to give ourselves air brakes. Are we going to hit that island? Oh yeah, we're on course for that island. Yeah, we're going to touch down right before. So we're safe for an ocean landing. Okay, our speed is slowly decreasing, which is very good, because as soon as we have reached a speed that's reasonable to deploy the parachute at, I won't have a fear of it burning up in midair. So, as soon as that parachute's been deployed successfully, that means that the Kerbals are pretty well safe. Now I can kind of angle this based on my engine rotation. I'm not really sure how that works, but I mean, it's in the game, so I'm not going to question it. This right here is pretty much our perfect setup for landing, because if we have the butt end down, that means that the engine is going to take any of the brunt that the parachute can't actually absorb itself. So we're going to let it fall a little bit more, and then we're going to deploy our parachute, because I know this parachute is actually rather good for slowing you down. So we're traveling at 260 meters per second, and really the only reason I haven't popped the parachute yet is to save some time. So we're at 2,000 meters, 1,000, I'm going to pop it right about now. And it'll extend fully too. Okay, as you can see, we've slowed our descent to 15 meters per second. The engine will still likely explode as we touch into the ocean, but the cabin should survive the impact. There you have it. We've touched down. Of course, a lot of work is still needing to be done for our Kerbals. They're all going to have to swim and get their way back to land, so I don't know. Where's the nearest land? I guess it would probably be the island. There it is. Alright, well they're going to have to get swimming. But if you like the video, leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching. Peace.